name is Melissa Meredith, your host for the Daily Wellness Podcast. If your day could use a dose of healthy living inspiration, you're in the right place. Call me a crunchy mom, health nerd, whatever. I'm just a normal mom trying to do what's best for her family, and I happen to love talking about all things health and wellness. Join me as we learn from like-minded people, change the health legacy of our families, and take our wellness to the next level. Welcome to the Daily Wellness Podcast. Today I'm joined by my amazing smoking hot hubby, Ryan Meredith. This episode will help you get to know us and why we started the Daily Wellness community. I'm really curious to hear if you can relate to the struggles that we've been through as we've tried to change and grow in all the health-related things. We include the struggles of growing together as a couple and as a family when we didn't always agree. Because the truth is, it's not always easy. But listen to the end because we are also going to share our top tips for moving forward with your family. When we get to 100 reviews, we are going to give away a $100 gift card. So if this episode is helpful for you, we'd appreciate your review. I know you'll feel encouraged by Ryan's wisdom. Here's your dose of daily wellness. You all, I have my husband with me today. This is Ryan Meredith. Welcome to the podcast, babe. Thanks for kicking this thing off with me.
You're very welcome. It's my pleasure.
Why don't you give everyone an introduction to our family?
Sure. So we have 4 kids. We're a family of 6. We've got a 15-year-old, we've got a 13-year-old, 12-year-old, and 8-year-old. So 2 boys and 2 girls. We live in Southwest Missouri, and we do a lot of things at home. So I work from home, you work from home, we homeschool, and it feels a lot like we just take kids around to activities and things like that as what we mostly do.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. And you did well on the kids' ages. I think you got everything right there. One
Thanks.
more question, though. Do you remember how many years we've been married?
We've been married 17 years.
Not bad. Good job.
Thank you.
Okay, so in this podcast, we want to do a few things. We want to share our family's health journey with you all. We want to talk about some obstacles and growing pains that we've been through. There are many. And we want to share some tips at the end so you leave feeling encouraged and you have some ideas for your own wellness journey. See that I always had a natural desire to, do things naturally. But I was kind of always talked out of it or made to feel like, I didn't need to do things that way, that I could just go with the mainstream. But one eye-opening experience that we had was when our oldest daughter, who's now 15, she was about 5, and she was having chronic ear infections, just ear infection after ear infection. And we were just, doing what the pediatrician told us to do. And it got to the point where they wanted to put tubes in her ears. And I know that's a pretty common procedure. But I had a check in my spirit about it. And I felt like I wanted to try to help her in another way besides surgery. So I talked to the doctor about it. He said, sure, go home and try, but I don't expect this to change. Her ears are pretty bad. I went home and I started researching and looking for ways to help her ears in a natural way. And I tried natural remedies for the first time ever. I had never done anything like that before. So honestly, I didn't have a lot of expectation of them working. The doctor didn't give me any hope for sure. But I tried it, and then we went back to check at the doctor a few months later, and her ears had completely healed. And I was amazed. I was shocked. And it really was a turning point for me of trusting my intuition, trusting the gut instincts that I had as a mom, and really trusting that natural desire that I had to pursue a more healthy lifestyle for me and for my family. Do you remember that time, babe?
I sure do. We were both pretty amazed that it worked, but I know it's a normal procedure, but when you think about it, it's like they're cutting holes in your kids' ears and then putting tubes in. It just seemed kind of traumatic or dramatic. I don't know what the word is, but we were new parents, obviously, and this was just wow, is there another way to do this, or is this the only option? So I remember that, and I'm grateful for your persistence to research, and I know we both prayed about it quite a bit as well. Yeah. So it was really cool to see the outcome.
Yeah, it was, and that was like the beginning of me becoming like a health and wellness nerd. I feel like I started reading all the books, like watching all the documentaries, following all the healthy living blogs, and I don't think there were many podcasts out
No,
back then that I
not,
knew of,
not that we
but
know of. Yeah.
but I was trying to read and just learn from anything that I could learn from, and I started learning about not just natural remedies, but I started to learn about food, how we could support our bodies by eating healthy food. I started to learn about the effects of products that we use in our home, our cleaning products, our personal care products. I started learning about things like stress and sleep and why those things are important and how they affect our bodies and relationships and just all of those things. And so, what started as just finding a solution for one thing has become so much bigger and really changed our family.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of the beginning for us. And I think that it's, easy to look at our family and think that maybe we've always been this way or something, but that's not really true. It's been a pretty dramatic shift for us over the last decade, and it's been a long journey of learning and trying and overcoming obstacles. So, here we are 10 years later after that initial event that really kicked this off for us. Why would you say, Ryan, that we are still going with this whole health and wellness thing?
When you just feel better and you're sick less often, that really makes a difference. So, like, we literally feel better than we used to, before we changed our diet and did all the other things that we've done. And just having less time off of work, less time out of doing school stuff, we just had a better quality of life. And so I think, like, as they say, the proof is in the pudding. And we've really experienced it just, personally.
Yeah, I think so. I remember, I know for me personally, I look back to like the beginning of our health journey and when we really started changing the way that we ate, my whole digestive system was like working so much better and my stomach was feeling so much better. And I remember thinking like I didn't really realize that I was feeling bad before. Like I just maybe thought that was normal or I was used to it. But I just specifically remember thinking I didn't know I needed to fix my stomach, but it's so much better.
Yeah. One of the thing I think that helps us keep going is, once you know something, it's hard to unknow it. So as we learned and we dug into things and just realized how not set up for success most of our typical structures are, and I'm sure we'll get into that later at some point, but you just can't unknow what you know now. And so to go back to the way we were doing things, in previous years, it just would have felt like counterintuitive because, we would know it's just not the best way out there. It's just not the best option. So for me, that was, it's one of those things. It's like, I don't know how to go back at this point.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like along our health and wellness journey, kind of parallel to that, like we have seen so many of our loved ones, our friends get sick with diseases or illnesses, that potentially could have been preventable. And then you learn things along the way of like, oh my goodness, like this food or this product, like it has this bad effect. And, you don't want that bad outcome for you or for your children. And so once you know that, you can't not know it. And so it's really been a journey of like learning and then trying to apply what we've learned.
I think another thing that just kind of sticks in my mind is just the milestones that we encountered that really, to me, felt like a shift in the way that we were doing things, or at least thinking about things. What are some of the milestones that kind of stick out in your mind?
Well, obviously, the story we already told about our oldest daughter, Lydia, and helping her get healthy, with natural remedies. And I have seen that happen like time and time again with our kids, just becoming more confident, more informed on how to actually like care for my family. That has been a big thing for me.
I think another thing for me was really the difference in our first two childbirths. So with our oldest daughter, we really just kind of went with the flow of how the medical system will tell you to do childbirth, and we really didn't ask a lot of questions. We did the classes that they want you to do, and that was fine, but it feel like it empowered us with, here's your options, or here's some things that you can think about for doing a healthy childbirth. We just kind of did what we were told. And, the second, the birth of our son, it was just a completely different experience. And do you want to tell a little bit about that?
Yeah, so just a little tidbit about our family. We have 3 biological children and 1 adopted child. So we've had 3 birth experiences. And I feel like how our birth experiences have gone really mirrors our wellness journey and like where we were at the time. So like the first one, like I didn't know anything really about advocating for myself in childbirth and, making choices from a more natural mindset. And then, our second and third, there was definitely a progression of, oh, we know this now. We want to do it this way because of the knowledge that we've gained. So I felt with our last birth experience, it was really beautiful in the fact of like, we knew what we wanted and we were able to communicate that. And it was really a good experience.
Yeah. And I enjoyed being informed and participating in that way as well, instead of being the, quiet dad that stands in the background and doesn't help. So,
yeah. So all those milestones, I think, were pretty empowering for us and motivating for us to keep going with, this health journey that we're on. I think another thing that keeps us going with our health journey is just from our faith perspective, knowing that God has given us these bodies that we have for a purpose and that we have good things to do on the earth while we're here. Like we want to be good stewards of that gift and the gift of our lives. And we want to honor God with the bodies that he's given us. And so making choices that are good for us just seems like the right thing to do.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I want to be here playing with my grandkids for a long time, right? So I want to be able to live and contribute to their lives. And so, yeah, I should take care of myself now.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So it hasn't all been obviously roses, right? So what were some of the growing pains that we experienced?
Well, I can definitely say that one obstacle for me has been just the feeling of overwhelm. I remember in the beginning of this health journey, and even still happens today, but in the beginning, I was learning about these natural remedies and then very quickly realized that I needed to really take a look at the food we were eating, and I was trying to learn about that. And then I was like, oh my goodness, what products are we using in our home and what effect is that having on us? And now we need to look at personal care and on and on. And it's one thing to learn things, but it's a whole other thing to apply them to your life and like implement those things in our home. So I can remember being kind of paralyzed by overwhelm at times.
You told a story a couple times about just being in the grocery store in those early days. Do you want to mention that?
Oh, yes. I remember. I don't think I will ever forget that. I was learning about food and really trying to make better choices for our family, definitely trying to eat whole foods. And I knew the things that I should not be eating. And so I went to the grocery store with all of those things in mind. And I go to try and buy groceries. And I literally break down crying in the grocery store because I did not know what to buy. I was so overwhelmed with not only, thinking about what I should or shouldn't buy, but does this fit in our family budget? And are my kids actually going to like it? And it was just having to do things completely differently. And that was definitely a paralyzing moment.
Yeah, for sure. I guess that makes me think of some other pain points that we've experienced in this change. And one of those things for me, I'm always, sometimes you accuse me of being cheap, or as I like to call it, frugal. But budget obviously was a big concern of mine. And, a lot of times, healthy things cost more than unhealthy things in a lot of circumstances. So for us, I think getting on just the same financial page when it comes to like where we're putting our money for our family's health. So that was a pain point and a challenge, and something that we had several discussions about. Not all of them were without some tension.
Yeah, and it was hard at that point also because I was an extreme couponer, spending very little on our grocery budget every month. And then all of a sudden we switched to eating healthy food, which there are no coupons for.
There's no coupons for peppers.
And so it just, our budget had to change. There was also just this idea of rearranging our budget to match our values. And so, the idea with living a healthy lifestyle is that you aren't going to have to be at the doctor's office as much and things like that. But, sometimes that means you have to spend a little bit more on healthy food or taking supplements, or maybe you want to try an alternative therapy that isn't covered by insurance. So I don't know that we necessarily have spent that much more money, because who knows where life would have taken us if we hadn't gone down this journey of wellness. But, we definitely have had to rearrange our money, how we spend our money. And we've had to have a lot of conversations about that, just making sure that we're on the same page.
Yeah. Sorry, I speak in pithy things sometimes. So it kind of reminds me of that saying where it's, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So kind of where my mind takes me on that.
Yeah. I also think one obstacle for us was, as we started making changes, not everyone liked our changes.
True.
Some friends and family weren't on board with everything that we were trying to do with our life and our family. And so we kind of had to get used to that and have conversations about that, not only with family, but we went to the doctor's office or the dentist office. And, I was asking more questions and I was wanting to make more informed choices. And that was met with some resistance quite a bit as well.
Yeah.
Do you feel like when we started our health journey that we really had a lot of people around us that were doing the same things?
No, we seem to be the pioneers, at least at that time in our circle of friends. Not a lot of people were trying to do what we were doing. And so we kind of had to have, just, not following the herd type of mentality. And that's okay. Like we were okay with that. It was just sometimes hard to explain when we had people over for dinner, or, our kids went over to other people's houses, and you know how kids are, especially when they're younger. They don't have a lot of tact in how they say things, so they might show up and say, that cereal's unhealthy, which is never something that we told them to do, but they did it anyway.
Yep. And it was kind of embarrassing at times. So we had to have those conversations with our kids, and that's part of our health journey too, is they saw us grocery shopping and would ask us to buy things, and we would tell them no, and we would tell them why we were saying no. And so they've heard us talk about all this health and wellness stuff for almost a decade now. But for a while when they were younger, it would all come out wrong.
You remember, so pro tip, if you're a parent looking to help your kids understand and make change, one of our favorite documentaries when it comes to sugar is Fed Up. And we went through about 4 Halloweens where we would watch Fed Up right before Halloween. And so our kids would, have some perspective of how much sugar was in the candy, and hopefully how much they would not eat. And that was successful to a certain degree. But, again, every Halloween we'd have to gear up.
Yep, that was pretty funny. They would watch it and then they would get all their candy and know that they couldn't keep it. But it's changed recently. They're not so much like that anymore, but
yeah.
There's an idea for you. And I will say this is the last obstacle I really want to mention. It kind of goes back to just feeling overwhelmed. Sometimes I would get stuck in the mode of perfectionism. Like, okay, we can't eat this. We can't do this. We can't have this in our house. We shouldn't do this. We shouldn't do that. And I would get really legalistic about our health. And, then I'd feel really guilty if we got off track or did something that wasn't good for us. And so I've had to learn over the last decade that perfection is not my friend. And I'm really going for progress over perfection.
Yeah, it's been good. So, babe, how would you describe our lifestyle now? What does healthy look like for the Meredith family?
Well, for one thing, I think that sets us apart maybe is a little bit different, because you hear people like going on a health journey, getting healthy, losing weight, eating better, all these different things, but not everyone does it with their family. And I feel like we really have, like from the beginning, I wanted my kids to know why we were making the changes that we were making. And so we've all been learning together. So I would say for one thing, it's a family ordeal for us. And another thing I would say, is if you ask what healthy looks like for us, I would say that we have a big picture of overall health. That wasn't always the case. As I was learning, I would get really focused on one thing because that's all I could do as a mom of little kids. I couldn't do everything at once. So I'd be really focused on food for a while, and then I would get really focused on the products we were using. But over time, I've come to realize that health is not just one thing. It's really the overall picture of your life, your food, the products you use, your environment, your lifestyle, your relationships, all those things have impact on your health.
Okay, since we've talked about so many obstacles, maybe we should end on a positive note.
That's a great idea.
How about some tips?
Yes, let's give them some tips.
Cool.
What would you say has been some things that have been helpful for us in our health journey?
I've really liked how we've done this as a family. I know we've talked about that several different times throughout this conversation, but it really has been significant because, I know a lot more than I used to. And I'm able to speak to these things in different conversations that I have with friends or acquaintances about how they could think about things differently and what we've experienced as a family. And I wouldn't have, I wouldn't be able to do that if we hadn't done this together.
Awesome. Yeah, I want to go back and restate the importance of focusing on progress and not perfection. That would be one tip I would really love to leave with all of you that are listening. If you are really stressed out about all the healthy things you need to do, that's not healthy for you either. So make a list of things that you want to change and start working through them one at a time. Remember that the changes you make have to be sustainable. So maybe diving in and doing all of the work at once isn't the most sustainable option. And you can kind of scale back, change one thing at a time, and a decade later, you'll be like us and feel like you're in a pretty good place.
Yeah. So where would you start? Like, if people were doing one thing at a time, what would be the focus area that you would say that they should start with?
I was thinking about this the other day, and I think I'm going to have to say start with food. Of looking at our own health journey and knowing what I know about food and how our bodies were created, I think that food has so much power to change our health for the better if we use our food as fuel and as medicine and really give our bodies a chance to heal through the food that we're eating. That would be my number one, start here, start with food.
Yeah, that's good. What else can they do?
I think you should get some mentors. So I hope that Daily Wellness will be a mentor to you. Like we said, we didn't really have a lot of friends or know anyone that was doing what we were doing close to us. And so all of the learning that I had to do, I kind of learned from people through books and through blogs and through documentaries and things like that. So it doesn't have to be a mentor that you talk to every day. It can be someone that you're learning from that's a step ahead of you in some way. If there's an area of your health that you want to grow in, find a mentor for yourself in that area. I'm trying to learn more about hormone health for myself right now. And so I've had to go and look who can teach me about this? What can I learn? And find sources for that. So, like we said, we hope that Daily Wellness will be a source of inspiration and encouragement for you in your health journey. Okay, as we wrap up, babe, I have a few questions for you. Are you ready?
Go for it.
Okay. One question is, what resource would you recommend to people that are trying to learn more about health, trying to get healthier with their life? What's something that you have learned from that you would recommend?
I think that documentaries are actually a pretty powerful way to learn something in a compact period of time, and they're entertaining. So if you're looking for just a quick and powerful boost of education on what you can do, I would recommend some good documentaries. Fed Up is one I already mentioned. There's actually one it's an OG type of situation, but Food Inc. was one that really impacted us at the beginning. Another one called, interesting title, but it's called Stink. It was on Netflix at some point, but I think it's cycled off. But it talked about just chemicals that are in our everyday products that could be impacting our health in some significant ways. So, not everything that they put in there, maybe 100% gospel or whatever, but I think there's some really good resources out there just in documentaries. That's how I've enjoyed a lot of our learning journey.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was a great kicking off point for a lot of the learning that we did. And it was also something that we could do as a family. So that was good that we could all learn together that way. Okay, this is a funny one, but what would you say is your favorite healthy snack?
I love our family granola recipe. I probably could eat that every day, for, breakfast, obviously, but then as evening snack. Like, I love me some granola, which explains why it goes so fast.
That's the reason. Okay. And then last question. Who would you love to see as a guest on the Daily Wellness Podcast?
Well, so many. I'd love to get some of the people who have been our mentors. One that comes to mind, which would be an awesome get for us, is Chris Beat Cancer Guy. What's his last name?
Chris Wark.
Chris Wark. So if you're out there, Chris, we'd love to have you on the show.
Yes, that would be great. It's going to happen someday.
For sure.
Thanks again, babe.
You're welcome.
Thanks for listening to today's episode on the Daily Wellness Podcast. We hope that you found it helpful for your own wellness journey. And if so, we'd love for you to leave a review. Then come back and listen for review shoutouts on upcoming episodes. For more information, check out the show notes and connect with us on our website, dailywellnesscommunity.com.